happy we're having it at Borders here. The old model of the university was ivory tower, right? We stay far from everywhere, we don't enter society. The good part of that model is our research is not contaminated. The bad part of the ivory tower model is we have no impact. So that we're now left the ivory tower to a shopping center is actually very interesting. When we worked on this book, this was over, it started out with a meeting with Tan Sri Zul and to help them think about the future of European universities. As we started this process, the Marabi. The professor can't just be writing, she or he has to be part of the ecology of society. He should not be a prison. Most universities are a prison, we know that. And so the idea is you want different type of professors, different type of universities, and what the students all tell us is, we want something that has impact on the world. So over 7 years, we came up with all the best ideas, and we're trying to influence the Ministry of Education. I remember the former Minister Idris, when we met, he said, fantastic, but it takes more than a workshop. You know, there's real politics involved changing the deep culture. So this book is about how Malaysia is and can be different. This book goes further. It says, can Asia say yes to itself? Asia for the last 200 years has been saying no to itself. The West is better, everyone else is better, Asia is inferior. The purpose of this book is to ask ourselves, can we create an Asian Confederation by 2050? Can Asia lead the world in innovation by 2038? Can deep Asian culture, Asian spiritual values, can they integrate with robotics, artificial intelligence, IoT, genomics? Can we link science and the spiritual together so by 2038, when people say, where is the center of knowledge? They don't say Oxford, they don't say Harvard, they don't say Sorbonne, they say KL, go to KL. That's the imagination. Now you say, well, isn't that a bit crazy? Every future is first created by imagination. So this book says, let's imagine a different future. At the same time, our research was very scientific. We're looking at what are the indicators for change. What are the big indicators? We're pointing them and saying, let's look at those indicators. Can they become not a small ripple, but a big wave? The conclusion of our book is yes, they can. We'll see the Asia saying yes. We'll see the rise of females. We're seeing Asians respond to climate change. So we're imagining a very different type of future. Now, the strange part is this book was actually commissioned by a prime minister. For the Asia we have today, there's been a dramatic transformation. So I want to suggest we don't stop in that transformation, we continue. So very much I read of things, robotics, new types of energy sources. So that's basically what the two books are about. With the first book, I was fortunate Fazida helped out from UTEM, she gave her experience. And this recent book, my colleague Luna helped out. Again, what I've learned with Prof. Zul says, it's impossible to do this stuff alone. So I'm thrilled that we have people who represent the Youth Council. I mean, he has a bit of gray hair, but still, they're kind of pretty young. So, you know, this is kind of what we're talking about. There's people who do strategy, they focus on today, geopolitics, strategy, etc. That's important. There's some of us, we do things differently. Our goal is to imagine a different future that's positive and better and to help create it. So these books are about assets for a different world. Thank you so much.
Story, and then we can start to imagine the future and change our future, right? And Professor Sohail.
To have also Prof. Sohail before with the Malaysian Youth Council, we have some lovely discussion on the futuristic thinking, future studies, and also we invited Prof. Sohail in one of our sessions to expose our young people with the culture of futuristic thinking, which is very rare among the so-called, what our Minister of Youth and Sport described us as Machai movement last week. So this is our challenge to expose our young leaders with this kind of thinking. It's very interesting and very insightful way of thinking. So to be fair, I just focus on one of the article written by Professor Sohail Inayatullah, which attracted me most. It's about several articles in this book. I think at least we have 6 chapters, and I'm focusing more on the experience of the study case of University Science Malaysia, whereby the experience of introducing the scenario planning and the futuristic thinking started with the conversation between Professor Zul, the chairman of USIM, and soon to be already the director of the International Islamic University, with the Professor Sohail Inayatullah, whereby Prof. Zul invited Prof. Sohail to do a scenario planning with the USM. As mentioned in the introduction, there were few literatures discussing on the future of the university. And many literatures and books talk about the history, about the current condition and situation of the local university, but few, and I believe that there is no literatures talk about the future of the university. And we believe that this book is as mentioned earlier by Professor Sohail, is to transform the university as the medium of educating our young people to prepare them for the future. Because we believe that we cannot always build the future for the young generation, but we can always build the young generation for the future. And of course, the university is the place for the young people to be educated and to transform their way of thinking and mind, attitude, and so on. So it is timely to have this book in order to transform the way of thinking of the lecturer, the professor, the leadership of the university, to help the direction and the vision of the university to the right direction. I'm very fortunate to be one of the TN50 ambassador. We always believe, former TN50 ambassador, we always believe that scenario planning, futuristic thinking is really important to transform and to predict, to anticipate the future in order to become relevant and to face the challenge that we face from time to time. And we are entering, and we are in this in the situation of industrial revolution. So we have to prepare the university, the young people for the better future. So I just succinctly to touch some a little bit of a very insightful and very interesting point written by Professor Sohail Inayatullah, Elisha, and Rebani in Chapter 3, Transformative Foresight, University Science Malaysia leads the way. As I mentioned earlier, the conversation started in USM for the past 50 years, in 2005. And this article shows the importance of having the scenario planning and to anticipate the future to help the direction of the university, because to ensure the relevancy of the local university. And of course, it is not an easy way to anticipate the future, so they have to gather all the brilliant professors, the brilliant minds to have the scenario planning. And in this case, they managed to have at least 5 scenario planning. And then the most challenging parts of the implementation of the scenario planning is of course the implementation part. So they have to endure and undergo certain process which is not easy to reach the preferred, what we call it, the preferred future and direction and vision. So they must undergo certain turbulence, if I may, turbulence, challenges, and process in order to reach the better future. So after they have the scenario planning, of course, they preferred vision of higher education. They have to endure certain process like, for example, if I may say, visioning. In the process of implementation, they have to undergo visioning, contest testing after they have the preferred future, so they have to contest with the resistors. You know, of course, in any change, there is always resistance that we have and must face, and we have to face them wisely. And at this point, at this juncture, I'm very attracted one of the point, if I may quote, as Patricia Kelly has argued in the subtitle of contesting, point of resisting. Instead of battling the resistors, it is better to understand their reasons. Find win-win solution at the point of resistance, and then focus on the desired future. In this way, the active and the passive adopters of the new future may remain energized and not become caught up in organizational dramas. So this is very powerful quotation that in order to promote the changes, so you have to undergo the contesting stage, and you have to face the resistance wisely, yeah, and in order to get a win-win situation between you and the resistors, and then undergo balancing and the contesting, you have to balancing in order to suit with the preferred vision, preferred what we call it vision of higher education, and of course, and then we have to self-direction and internationalization and so on. So brothers and sisters, this is a very important book. I recommend you to, especially those who are in the academia field, to read this book in order to get the essence and the formula on how to organize the scenario planning, to implement the preferred visions of the higher education. And of course, last but not least, there are a few articles written by several authors, and another interesting chapter, I think, about the Morobis, augmented reality, the Morobis, and the democratization of higher education. This is one of the I think interesting concept that we want to help the professors and the educators in the higher institution to become not merely the teachers, but the Morobis, in order to really educate our young people. So Professor Suhail Natullah, I believe that this book will give very insightful ideas, and I will recommend to the new leadership of the National Youth Council to also do this one, and I hope that
Brother Jufitri Johar was awarded with as the Tokoh Belia Negara. At the same time, Tokoh.
Working with Professor Sohail for, I think, what, 10 years now? All right, and in fact, it has been a privilege working with Professor Sohail. We've read about him so much, and the work that he has done over the years on futures, scenarios, foresight, futures thinking. And in fact, for me, studying scenarios planning and futures foresight is something that comes by, I would say, by accident, yeah. Because I was handling his one of his workshops when somehow it triggered upon me that this is something that needs to be studied further. And I've taken it to a different level altogether when now I'm studying it, seriously studying it. And that is how this book came along. And in fact, I would suggest that for any organizations at all, and now we're talking about Transformation 2050, doing about all universities in Malaysia, the public universities as well as the private ones. I would suggest that all university, stakeholders, from the top management right up till the student council should be reading this book, because in here we have somehow collected I think more than 12 articles and write-ups on how future scenarios is actually something that is feasible in the Malaysian higher education system, in which even now as we move forward, we talk about strategic planning, we talk about drafting our strategic plan for all the universities per se, but we have to always bear in mind that over time as we are planning it, as Peter Drucker put it, the management guru, culture would normally eat strategy for breakfast. So easily, as you plan, as you try to implement and execute, somehow along the way, if you're not, you're not careful enough and you're not into the scenarios planning with all the, causal analysis, backcasting and futures planning, you might find that your strategic plan just wouldn't work. All right, and so in this book, we have laid down all the experience in working strategically, thinking about it, and in fact, all the workshops and programs that we had done before this with Professor Sohail fully adopted the six pillars planning, scenarios planning, which in fact in the Malaysian education system, as we work at ECAP with all the vice chancellors of universities, I think over 3 sessions of workshop from 2010 right up till 2012. We used the 6 pillars scenarios planning, and somehow I was informed by ECAP that some universities which actually adopted the 6 pillars with the strategic planning actually work. And now, as for UTEM per se, we are moving into the second part of our strategic planning, in which I myself have suggested to the university that the 6 pillars scenarios planning should be used. All right, because we have seen the success from the previous planning. So I think that is all, Professor Sohail. I think I've put that into words here. Thank you very much for the opportunity given. It's been a privilege working with Professor Sohail, of course. And then upon that, knowing Naim here and Jufitri now. So I think the networking has grown, expanded. Thank you so much, Professor Sohail.
Convinced, okay, but to promote the book, okay, it is valuable, okay, over there. So you can buy the books. Both books are valuable, as well as other publications by you. So not the product result, okay, in the market. How that all of his, not only followers, but all his mentees are doing well in the market.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Professor Sohail, Prof Musa, Brother Arif, Dr. Zul, Brother Jufitri, Prof Fazilah, and the rest of the audience. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer for inviting me and sharing some of my thoughts on Asia 2038, 10 Disruption that Change World. Before I begin, let me perhaps introduce myself. My name is Muhammad Naim Jaafar, and I founded Foresight way back in 2011 as just my actually my symbol of frustration, because the moment we try to put an idea into books, sometimes people read your books, but they cannot understand what you are talking about. Therefore, I founded Foresight in 2011 simply just to try to practice some of the ideas, futuristic ideas that can be applied on the ground. Now, Foresight, we have a few subsidiaries that run quite a breadth of education reform through Foresight Academy. We do have a Foresight strategy as a consulting arm. Our client range from big organizations, startup, some political organizations, and few NGOs. On the other hand, actually I come to know Professor Sohail quite early, back in 2007, when I was involved in one of the largest mega merger in the Malaysian corporate history, Samdapi merger, big merger. When one of the consultants during that time was Bain Consulting, Bain Company, predicted what is going to be the future of palm oil industry, because Samdapi is one of the biggest players, apart from IOI as well as Felda, on palm oil industry. And the moment that futuristic prediction took place in 2007, it's actually happening now. The huge rejection by the EU on the palm oil industry is happening in 2018. But it was predicted and it was pre-designed in 2007. And I come to know Professor Sohail from some of the articles. And it is very interesting, because one of his writing that actually caught my attention was titled The 5 Future of Muslim. I think it was written way back 2004, but it is still relevant until now. Because what is some of the gigantic change in Islamic narrative now happening globally has been predicted or perhaps analyzed by Professor Sohail way back in 2004. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me zoom in into this book, Asia 2038. I think the essence of this book is two. First, this book is bringing a lost confidence, a lost wisdom, and a lost heritage that Asia actually has surrendered to the colonial Europeans and Northern America for the last couple of centuries. It is needless to say to refer to another magnum opus of Anwar Ibrahim, the Asian Renaissance. Because when I read his book way back in 1998, I couldn't understand what the hell this guy is talking about. But the moment I relate to what Professor Sohail does mention in this book, and then I can understand what is actually lacking in Asia is two. First, we are lacking inner confidence, and we are lacking economic prosperity. The moment now, the economic prosperity are shifting to this part of the world and leaving Europeans and the Northern America struggling economically due to post-industrialization as well as unemployment and financial crisis. Therefore, Asia will gain its inner spirituality and confidence by way of having inner wisdom that clearly Asia has mountain of wealth of wisdom, coupled with the coming economic prosperity that we now seeing all over part of Asia. China is one of the fastest, will soon become the largest economy in the world. Japan is recovering. Part of India is catching up very closely. And more important, this book, Professor Sohail clearly mentioned the strategic part of Southeast Asia that Malaysia belongs, because this is the most dynamic part of Asia that any innovation or change will happen more friendly with speed other than the other bigger part of the Asia. That's number one. Secondly, this book also offers a very practical approach to future studies. Put it plainly, because if we read other futurists, the like of I fond of Alvin Toffler, John Naismith, even Kenichi Ohme. Kenichi Ohme, one of the referee of Mahathir's strategy since his premiership back in 1980. Most of the other futurists always try to find the big trend which no catch up with on the ground. On the other hand, what Professor Sohail managed to and succeed to do is to let people understand future studies in a more practical manner. For example, the methodology of causal layer analysis is the way how we understand a particular feature can be redesigned with few analysis on the ground. That is why when we see this book, Professor Sohail highlighted 10 disruptions that is going to shape the future of Asia. But I would like to highlight quite a few. First, this is surely the women audience will be interested. The rise of women, or I may call it the womanomics, the woman power. I was told by one of the colleagues in Bangladesh that Bangladesh is actually planning to enact a law to have a right for a woman to divorce his husband on some economic or some financial basis. Okay, so I think this is quite interesting, whereby looking at Bangladesh as a sample, how Professor Muhammad Yunus through Grameen Bank has managed to find alternative future for Bangladesh by having more women to participate in economic activities through social businesses and others. More importantly, we see more women will play major role in professional endeavor, in corporate world, in education and others. And clearly, this is there is a blind spot in it that requires some reconciliation in between maintaining certain culture and our ethic, plus the rising power of women that actually can benefit Asia at large. Secondly, another point that I think worth mentioning is about what he called about, perhaps related with this book, the migration from factory model of learning to a more collaborative way of learning. I think this session today is one of the examples of a collaborative learning that is being tried by and as well as some other partners outside the university, whereby the fluidity of ideas and knowledge doesn't confine the particular ivory tower, that actually fluid across network and the rest of individual. The last but not least, I think it is on the post-capitalism era, where Asia will be based more on the democratized opportunity. That means everyone can raise to the occasion and succeed. And you can see more anecdote and more success story of young individuals from a quite unfortunate background, raised to the occasion, make a difference, and shape the future of a small community that belongs without the interference of big corporation, without the interference of participation of big government. Then they can do it with flair and also style. The last one, this is what I think what I love about the future and the possibility that Professor Swal tried to cultivate. In his article in your interview, we need to change the metaphor, because in Malaysia, in particular, at the moment we have a new government at this moment. Previously, we thought about having some fisheries that we actually put the metaphor as a bunch of trees, but it's not enough. Now we need to have more bunch of trees. What we need actually a forest of foresight. That means every one of us right in front of me now, and those who are actually watching via Facebook Live, should be the fisheries by themselves. So Professor Sohal has actually laid the foundation very clearly, and every one of us need to design the future to the area or the sector that we belong to or that we are passionate about. So the narrative changed from a bunch of tree fisheries to a forest of fisheries. Because why? Because the moment we have forests, we don't know which bunch of trees will be cut, which bunch of trees that will be dying very soon. So then we can, perhaps if our prediction or our futuristic analysis fails, at least we can rely on some other analysis or prediction to succeed. That's why I think I would like to record what Dr. Zul said just now. That what Alan Kay said. Alan Kay is the founder of Intel. The best way to predict the future is to create it. I think I want to change a bit for today. The best way to predict the future is to buy this. Thank you.